This week, we'll finish part 2 of the little mahogany side table that was given to me by a friend. Her mom found it in the house that she bought recently, as someone had left it there. She didn't have any history on it. It was quite dusty. The veneer was damaged and it's full of dents. The body is in good condition and nothing is loose, so I didn't have to do anything with that. I washed it up pretty well, stripped and bleached it, and made a whole lot of repairs in part 1. I repaired the broken drawers, replaced the damaged or missing veneer, and continued into part 2 with some of those repairs. At this point, I was planning to replace the original Hepplewhite pulls, but there is more on this later, and I had some good luck on that. I could fix this. So here we will catch up from part 1 now that we're cutting, fitting, and adding the trim, and my struggles with that. We will end with cutting and fitting a new gallery. Let's get started. This week we will distinguish between restoration and refinish. Because I like to be literal, and to me, restoration is when nothing has changed, really. Making necessary repairs, being sensitive to the original manufacturer of the piece. So making sure to honor the history of the piece as much as I can, and that's my goal. For this table, I'll call it a refinish because it had a gallery of a sort at one time, and I couldn't find a picture or even reference to a table like this, and so I'll have to make a guess about a way to replace this gallery. The horizontal trim that I found is an excellent match, and I feel good about that. It's called a shingle mold with 2 rounded edges and a sort of mini crown shape, which appears at the bottom as well, originally. It appears that the gallery was removed, and thus some of the edge veneer was damaged by lifting it out. I have no idea what it originally looked like. Was it brass, wood? Was it filigree? Was it plain? I found that the legs are made of poplar, and the stiles, backslat, and trim were some other wood. I'll have more on that later. The carvings along the front stiles remind you of a snake or fish scales, with one plate appearing to overhang the next in a single line. The depth of the color in the mahogany veneer makes me believe this is quite old, since mahogany tends to darken over time. I'm thinking it's at least as old as turn of the century, the other century. So cute, a little kitty. I'm only doing the legs, or the bottom. So it has shellac and toner and some of the paint marker on the new veneer. So the front piece went on just as nice as you could wish. It's beautiful. The color is almost perfect, I think. And yeah,
I'm going to make just a
mitered
little bit of dye.
to accept another piece on the side.
Oops.
So I chose a piece of wood trim that I thought would be attractive with some modest detail. I found one that had an ivy vine engraving, which I hope, even though it's not an original detail, that it would look pretty and fit the look of the table.
I want to fix that.
Just have to hit it with some more shellac. So to those of you who answered tape when I asked the question on Instagram, I was thinking of the, the fancy tape there, the yellow tape, which is really good for doing stripes, but sometimes not so good for attaching to shellac. It can actually take your finish off, that I learned the hard way. But then I thought, no, I'll just use the masking tape. And so, yeah, this isn't glued. I just tested it. And so, yeah, now I will add a little bit of glue to it. And this is how I will. I mean, it's not the greatest thing. I wish I could clamp it. And here's just the wood glue. Yeah, I wish that I could add a clamp to it, but I mean, I can't. So, I don't know. I'm just going to have to use the tape and hope that's going to work. I'm going to add a little glue here to my joints. Yeah. What is that? I just don't want to get stuff on here. Just trying like heck not to mark up my finish. It's not always easy, I'll tell you. Oh boy. Yep. Oh, yep. Oh, yeah. And that's where I had trouble actually holding it on.
So I tried tape, that didn't work. I tried different types of clamps, and that didn't work. So I have come up with another idea, and so that's what I will be trying today. Now the finish is nice and dry. All my wherever I added the stain, the oil stain, that's nice and dry. It's had a couple of days. All my shellac is dry. Um, I put stain on these tiny trims. Now they're so small that they're actually, the stain has kind of curved that trim a little bit, unfortunately, in the wrong direction, of course. But I'm going to try to deal with that. And I have another way that I'm going to deal with it. Okay. I am just going to take these gloves off since they seem to hamper me. I think what I might do is grab my blow dryer and see if I can't put a little heat on it and encourage it to dry while the tape is on, because it's like it doesn't have a very tight adhering here. So yeah, let me grab my blow dryer. Now maybe that tape is actually not going to work, but let me try something else. I'm sure that this actually doesn't move. I'm going to use a little bit of wood glue. So today I'm going to use the wood glue, but I'm actually going to use hot glue in just a few spots that it will at least hold it in place. And while it's being held in place by the hot glue, it will have time to dry with a clamp. So yeah, I hope that that works. Okay, and now I'm going to grab a clamp. Hopefully that's not going to move. So I placed one of these large rubber bands, I think it's made out of silicone actually, around the piece, just so that it's giving me a visual place of where the trim is going to go. And I guess what I'm going to do, since it's nice and dry, I'll be able to place one of these kinds of clamps across the top. I just, the other day I couldn't do that because it wasn't cured enough. So I'm going to try that. Yeah. So we'll see. And maybe what I'll do is, the hot glue does sort of work. So what I'll do is I'll put a little dab of hot glue in the middle because, yeah, just until I can grab another clamp. I wish I had more clamps like this because this isn't so heavy that it, ruins the furniture. But okay, let's try that. to make sure that it works fine. So this morning, the donator, or my friend and her mom, whom this little cabinet had belonged to when they gave it to me to refinish, the mom, Jean, she found the original hardware. And look how adorable they are. I haven't even tested it yet. Let's see. I'm testing it on my phone magnet. And it does magnetize. I don't believe for that reason that it's brass, but it could be bronze. And yeah, so I'm going to clean these up, and these are really rare in my estimation. Not because you'll never find them, but I've never come across the ones with the 2-inch space hole here. They're really tiny, and yeah. So yep, I'm putting the last finishing touches on the cabinet. You can see. I'm going to do just a little bit of filling and sanding and a little bit more shellac, and then I will start the oil finish, which is I'm just using a hemp oil natural finish. So my video wasn't recording, but I did a coat of walrus oil on the top, and now I'll do the sides and the front. This is the walrus oil, doing a mild oil on this finish and letting it soak in. And after this is all nice and dry, I will follow it up with the tongue oil, and it's a Minwax product, which means it's, I don't know if it means this, but there's not a lot of tongue oil in it, but it does have some oils, and it has some resin, and the oil acts as a carrier for the resin, and it gives a really nice hard finish. So I'm going to follow it up with that. But this is going to dry for a while. I'll probably let it dry overnight, and I'll come back in the morning and buff it down and then start my tongue oil. Today I'll just remove the remaining walrus oil. I accidentally picked it up and hit this and reset it. But it was a little over 17 hours. I'm using a 4-aught steel wool with my oil to give it a really nice finish. And it's a very special finish. And it just has a nice, gentle, abrasive action with the oil that ends up leaving it really, really smooth. Thank you for watching this week's video. It was part 2 of a restoration slash refinish of an antique mahogany table. And it came to me via a very kindly neighbor whose mom had found it in the house that she recently, I think, purchased. And she was going to paint it because she thought it was cute, but then she changed her mind and she didn't want it anymore. So she asked her daughter if she knew anyone who would want it, and her daughter thought of me. That's Cindy and Jean. Jean is the mom, Cindy is my neighbor. And thank you both very much for entrusting me with your lovely piece. And yeah, I didn't know too much about it. I tried to look it up. I couldn't really find too much about it, but I knew by looking at it that it had some trim around the front and the side, and it at one time had a gallery. I had no idea what the gallery looked like, so I just kind of took a guess and chose some trim that would fit in there, and that's what I used. It has a little bit of a vine and leaf pattern engraved on it. It's just a very inexpensive trim, as is the trim that goes across the front. It's a simple shingle mold trim, which is a tiny bit of a lip, a double lip, a double ridge, if you will, and it matches the trims on the bottom. And I thought that was a pretty good choice. Had a lot of trouble getting it on there. It didn't come with the hardware, but I guessed it was a type of Hepa white design and a very small um, pin to pin, and I didn't think I could find one, so I was going to put a new set of hardware on, and Jean, the mom, had actually found them at home, so she brought them over, and she saw the piece as I was working on it, and she fell in love with it, and she wants it back, so isn't that cool? Um, Now, when I first got it obviously made of different types of woods, and that's no surprise because they used very heavy, very opaque finishes back in the early 1900s. Not unusual, late 1800s, early 1900s, and especially this old mahogany, purpley kind of thick, opaque finish. And so it's not unusual to use different types of wood. And so they had a substrate wood, and the trim woods are different. The woods in the legs are different. And then there's the mahogany veneer on the top, the sides, and the drawer fronts, and actually inside the drawers. So very nice little piece that's put together. Um, so I don't always know right away when I'm taking something apart what kind of wood it is because I'm not a super expert on wood. And it's kind of a guessing game for me. And sometimes I really need to um, take it down, see how it feels, see how it responds to what techniques I'm doing. And sometimes I change my mind. But so this time, what I think is right now, you could argue that I'm wrong because I'm not an expert on that, but I believe the legs are poplar. Um, I believe these um, styles are chestnut. It just looks that way to me. It just responds to sanding um, and manipulation. It really feels like chestnut. The back looks to me like rosewood. What a nice little piece. It's unique. It's beautiful. Yeah. And so when Jean gave me the hardware, I took the liberty to clean it with some vinegar. I boiled them in vinegar, and I put some rust remover on them and took them down like that with a little bit of a brass brush. And they looked very coppery. They're not brass. I think they're bronze, or they're even could be tin. I'm not really sure. Leave a comment if you have any ideas. But I did, because they looked coppery, I just did a little bit of a wash with some copper gilding wax, just barely. It didn't really change the tone of them. It just kind of enhanced it a little bit. And you'll notice that obviously this piece isn't perfect. Um, it still has some of the dents and dings in it. Now, I could have put a hot iron on this deep scratch, but it is a deep scratch. The veneer of the mahogany is very thin, and it broke through in a lot of places. I did replace a lot of veneer, and I didn't want to put a hot iron on it. Just even the edge, when I got it, was worn off. So I didn't want to replace that whole edge. All I did was almost add a little bit of a gentle chamfer and just kind of let it go where it will. Um, the trims, of course, are inexpensive, and it's unfortunate because I picked them up at Lowe's, and sometimes you just don't know what you're getting. It absorbed the stain in a funny way on one side, but it's not too bad. The miters are okay. The veneers, you can tell that they're there. This one was quite extensive on the bottom. It was totally broken away, so I had to add a walnut substrate and a mahogany overlay to fix that. And yeah, it still has its personality, but it's brought back to its loveliness. I love the way it came out. I hope you like it. I hope Jean likes it when she gets it home. She seemed to really um, be impressed with it. So something like this, and there was something else that I saw. Oh, here. This is actually part of the grain. So if I couldn't take that out because this is just the fact that they used a lesser expensive exotic wood to build the substrates below the mahogany. So I think that's probably part of a knot or some kind of marring of the wood underneath. So it is what it is. It's not a burn. It's just simply part of the wood, and so that stays there. But I like it that way. I don't know. I think we all earn our scars and pressures of life, and so she has her pressures of life too. But she's still beautiful. And yeah, thank you again for watching the video. I'm going to give you some close-up photos. Don't these drawers work beautifully? And remember the red staining in here? Yeah, I'll show you some close-ups on that. And they were all broken, and so they're nice and tight now. Oh, I did enhance it with a little bit of brown wax um, over the Howard's Citrus Shield beeswax. So it has beautiful period finishes. So no polyurethane on something like this. Beautiful. Once this wax cures, it will be very water resistant. Not that it couldn't have a watermark, but very resistant to that type of thing. If you're gentle with it, use coasters. Take care of spots right away. Don't put pledge on these old things. You can use Restore Finish. That's not bad. It's what it is a little bit of oils. It might have some beeswax in it and a little bit of dye stain. So, and that will kind of hide the scratches as the years go by. So you can use something like that and it won't hurt it at all. But yeah, thank you again for watching the video. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. If you're not subscribed and you like these videos, feel free to subscribe, and you'll be notified when new videos come out. And yeah, give it a like if you liked it, and thank you so much. I wish you all good and beautiful things like this. Take care.